now. Oh, is there a finish? There is!
Adel Taarabt is a Moroccan footballer whose story is filled with contrasts. From his beginnings as a street football player to becoming a controversial figure in European top leagues. His talent was undeniable, but his behavior on and off the field led to criticism and issues with his coaches. His story is an example of how natural talent alone is not always enough to succeed in professional football, especially if it is not complemented by discipline and the right attitude. It was March 2010. Queen's Park Rangers, QPR, had only won 2 of their last 16 matches. Neil Warnock, the club's 7th manager in a year and 5 months, was tasked with what seemed like an impossible mission: to manage the same team without access to new signings and prevent them from falling further down the table. The situation was critical, but something unexpected happened. On a hot day, Warnock noticed a young man wearing a woolen hat and black gloves during a training session. Intrigued, he asked one of the staff members about him, and the response was discouraging. "That's Taarabt. If I were you, I wouldn't go near him. He'll cost you your job. He's just a waste of space." But Warnock had a hunch. Despite the young player frequently losing the ball and taking unnecessary risks in his own half, something in his attitude and arrogance captivated him. Warnock decided to give him a chance. He told Taarabt, "Listen, next Saturday you'll play, and if you don't do well, you'll play in the following game. And if you still don't perform, you'll keep playing, because you're going to save us." This trust placed in the young Moroccan paid off immediately. Warnock implemented a rule. Any player who passed the ball to Taarabt in his own half would be fined £50,000. A year later, QPR was leading the league, and Taarabt, at just 22 years old, had scored 19 goals and provided 21 assists for midfield. The whole country had fallen in love with him. Why was everyone so afraid of Taarabt? The answer is simple. He was like a wild horse, untamed and full of talent. In another decade, he would have been seen as a virtuoso, but in an era where coaches were obsessed with turning every player into a disciplined robot, Taarabt was an anomaly. Those who tried to tame him ended up frustrated because he had learned everything on the streets. Where football is pure instinct and creativity. At the age of 17, Taarabt was already being compared to Zinedine Zidane and Ronaldinho. Imagine the pressure. He had played just 3 minutes in League One before his first club, RC Lens, received a flood of offers and was practically forced to sell him. In fact, Arsenal showed interest in him, but Taarabt dreamed of being the new jewel of Arsene Wenger. However, his fate changed when Tottenham Hotspur scout Damien Kamali convinced him to join the Spurs. It was his first mistake. Although the club was thrilled with his signing, several staff members insisted he was the most talented teenager they had ever seen. After debuting with only 3 minutes left on the clock, he changed the game enough for Martin Jol, Tottenham's manager at the time, to praise him, saying he could be the next David Ginola. Despite all the praise, the club did not support him in his personal life. Leaving him alone and lost in a foreign country at 18 and an interview years later, Taarabt confessed that if he could give advice to his younger self, it would be to stay in France. In England, despite the talent he showed on the field, he felt alone and abandoned. He would train for 1 or 2 hours, and then be alone, unsupervised. In a city as large as London, where temptation and isolation could be devastating, things worsened when coach Juande Ramos arrived at Tottenham. He implemented a strict regime, banning several players from training with the first team and not even giving them shirt numbers. While most players left, Taarabt decided to stay and wait, hoping that things would change. But Ramos never changed his mind, and his relationship with the club deteriorated even further. When Harry Redknapp took over, He promised to give him playing time, but those promises never materialized. Eventually, Tottenham and Taarabt parted ways, but Redknapp, who always feared letting go of talented players, predicted that one day Taarabt might come back to haunt him. After his unsuccessful stint at Tottenham, Taarabt moved to QPR. However, just a month later, he suffered a harsh tackle during training that sent him to the operating table, and his loan was cancelled. For any other player, this would have been a devastating blow, but Taarabt was different. In just 7 matches, he had won over the fans, who already had a chant for him. Once he recovered, QPR brought him back, and in his second match after returning, he was already scoring the goal of the season. Every game with Taarabt on the field was a roller coaster. 50% of the time he delivered a fascinating performance, and the other 50% he offered absolutely nothing. Additionally, his behavior off the field sparked controversy. He publicly declared that he wished he had joined Arsenal while still contracted to Tottenham, which caused considerable uproar. Fortunately, it was around this time that Warnock took over the team. There was an immediate connection between Taarabt and Warnock. Warnock understood that all Taarabt needed was someone to back him up. With that confidence, Taarabt's inconsistency vanished. In his first 7 games under Warnock, he scored 2 goals and provided 5 assists. By the end of the season, he was in the Team of the Year and no longer spoke of moving to one of Spain's top 4. He insisted that QPR felt like home and that he wanted to take them to the Premier League. Warnock saw how well Taarabt had responded to his support and decided to take his strategy even further. He secured Taarabt's permanent transfer for just £1 million and then, against all common sense, made him team captain at just 22 years old. When asked why, Warnock replied that he would do anything to get an extra 10% out of Taarabt. But that 10% turned out to be a euphemism. In 10 games, he had already contributed 13 goals in a match against Crystal Palace. Taarabt literally intimidated Edgar Davids off the field. In December, with Swansea trying to close the gap at the top of the table, Taarabt delivered one of the greatest performances ever seen. He was involved in all 4 of his team's goals. In the first, he dribbled past 4 players. In the second, he assisted after another great run. In the third, he scored from an impossible angle. And in the fourth, he netted one of the best goals ever. The crowd at Loftus Road started singing Taarabt's "Too Good For You," and Warnock couldn't believe what he was seeing. But Taarabt didn't stop there. A month later, in another impressive performance, he scored an early goal and made a 30-yard assist. However, towards the end of the season, he began to lose his composure. First, he impulsively withdrew from international football and left the Moroccan national camp when he realized he would be on the bench for the next match. Taarabt's erratic behavior continued. In a match against Burnley, he approached Warnock looking stressed and asked for a week off to return to France with his cousin, who was fighting for his life after being shot. Warnock agreed, but the night before the match, Taarabt's passport was found discarded in the locker room. Clearly, he had never left the country. Warnock, furious, ordered him to play and score a goal. 1 minute after entering the field, Taarabt had scored. However, Taarabt didn't learn his lesson. A month later, with the league title already secured, he decided not to show up for the final match of the season. This time, he had really returned to France with his family. When Warnock called him in a panic, Taarabt assured him he would return immediately. Fortunately, he did in time and played in the final match. After helping take QPR to the Premier League, Taarabt faced a new set of challenges. His first year in the Premier League was tough. Despite his skills, the pressure of the world's most competitive league began to weigh on him, and his performance became more inconsistent. Rival teams knew that if they could contain Taarabt, QPR would lose much of its attacking power. Harry Redknapp's return to QPR in 2012 brought new tensions. Although Taarabt initially showed flashes of his former self, the relationship between them quickly deteriorated. Redknapp publicly criticized him, calling him overweight and lacking commitment. Taarabt responded with his own defense, but it was clear that his time at QPR was coming to an end. In 2014, Taarabt was loaned to AC Milan, a club that recognized his talent but was also concerned about his behavior. Surprisingly, Taarabt impressed during his brief stint in Italy, showcasing flashes of his quality in one of the most demanding leagues in the world. However, Milan did not sign him permanently, and Taarabt returned to QPR, where he continued to struggle to find his place. Finally, in 2015, Taarabt moved to Portugal to join Benfica. This move was seen by many as his last chance to revive his career in Europe. In Portugal, Taarabt found an environment that allowed him to focus on his football, and although he was not always a regular starter, his contribution to the team was valuable. Today, Adel Taarabt serves as a reminder that talent alone does not guarantee success in football. His skill with the ball, his ability to change a game, and his unpredictability made him unique. However, his lack of discipline, his temperament, and his inability to adapt to the demands of modern football limited his potential. Despite all the challenges and controversies, Taarabt remains a beloved figure for many fans. His style of play, reminiscent of the days when football was more art than science, made him a fan favorite, especially at QPR, where he will always be remembered as the man who took them back to the Premier League. Taarabt, known for his technical skill and creativity on the field, has had a career full of ups and downs that has taken him through various leagues and teams across Europe. Originally from Morocco, Taarabt began his professional career at RC Lens in France before moving to England, where his talent drew the attention of Tottenham Hotspur. On the international stage, Taarabt has been a key player for the Moroccan national team. He made his debut in 2009, and although his relationship with the team has sometimes been complicated due to disagreements with coaches and officials, his talent has never been in doubt. He has been part of important moments for Morocco, although his participation in tournaments like the Africa Cup of Nations has been inconsistent due to those same conflicts. After his time at Tottenham, where he failed to establish himself as a regular starter, Taarabt joined Queen's Park Rangers, QPR. It was at QPR where he reached his peak, especially during the 2010 to 2011 season, when he led the team to promotion to the Premier League with his goals and assists. However, inconsistency and off-field issues began to affect his performance. He later had brief stints at clubs like Fulham and AC Milan, where he again failed to find stability. His career took an unexpected turn when he signed with Benfica in 2015. Although initially relegated to the B team, he managed to reinvent himself as a more mature and disciplined midfielder. At Benfica, Taarabt showed an evolution in his playing style, standing out more for his distribution and vision. Though he did not reach the prominence of his best days in England in recent years, Taarabt has been part of Benfica, alternating between being a starter and a substitute depending on the coach. His role in the team has varied, but he has proven to be a useful player, especially in matches where greater ball control in midfield is needed. As he advances in age, retirement is becoming a more tangible possibility. Given his profile, it is likely that Taarabt will consider various options. One possibility could be continuing in a league with less physical demand, such as the Gulf leagues, where players with his technical talent often extend their careers. Alternatively, he might return to Morocco to end his career at a local club, something many Moroccan players have done as a way of giving back to the football of their country. Another scenario could be his continued presence in Europe, but in a less prominent role, perhaps in a league like the Turkish or Greek leagues, where he could still contribute with his experience and talent to a team looking for a veteran midfielder to lead the group. Finally, it cannot be ruled out that Taarabt might consider retirement if he feels he can no longer perform at the level he expects of himself. Either way, his career will be remembered for the moments of brilliance he provided, even if his trajectory was, in many ways, a case of potential largely unrealized due to off-field factors. Taarabt may not have reached the heights many predicted for him, but his story serves as a warning and a lesson about the importance of character, mentality, and adaptability in professional sports. This has been it for today. Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to give us a like, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for our next exciting content on the world of sports. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments. See you next time.